Hello and a warm welcome to another edition of To The Point. On today's episode, a very special personality who keeps thinking about women and their issues. I welcome Women and Child Development Minister, Madam Maneka Gandhi. Welcome.
Thank you.
Let me begin by asking you a very general question before we go on to the nitty-gritties which affect the women population of the country. When we talk about women empowerment in the country, many people say that it's just an euphemism. Some people say that it's a story in progress. When you as a woman look at the story of women's empowerment in the country, what would you really say? How is it unfolding? Is it really working on the ground?
Well, it's inching forward. Let's say the glass ceiling is getting broken, but bit by bit. We don't seem to have made much headway in women's defense.
Okay.
But certainly now we're putting a wall of protection around her, so that should something horrible happen, we will be able to come to her rescue faster.
Okay.
But in terms of employment for women, education for women, yes, we're doing better.
Is it also a reality that now women are not waiting for institutions to take actions? They are coming forward on themselves and they have begun to take actions. Do you also feel that they are not dependent too much on the institutions, or you feel that no, their progress and their movement forward will need institutions also by their side?
What kind of institutions are you talking about?
Institutions as in the government support.
No, women certainly need government support. They haven't gone that far that they don't need government support, and they need it in terms of one, handouts, training, getting to schools, having schools made for them, defense, police sensitization, special buses. Certainly women need help at every point, but it's not just women, everybody needs help at some point. That's what governments are for.
But if you look at the feminist movements, the way they have progressed right from colonial days to the present times, we have always seen that the focus has been too much on the women who are privileged, and basically the focus hasn't been too much on the poorer lot. And
that's why we still need government help. That's why.
And your government has brought out a draft of the policy on national empowerment of women. What are the major highlights? Does it really cater to this section of the people? Can you just elaborate a little on this policy?
No, it's a mixture of, the new policy is a mixture of empowerment and social benefits. It has to be.
Okay.
No, you can't possibly have simply rights without some kind of handout ability.
Okay.
And it's a new policy geared towards today's woman. But today's woman is still living in several centuries at the same time.
Right.
There's still the woman who is a victim to dowry. There's still the woman who won't get sent to school, who gets married off at the age of 13. There's still the girl who doesn't want to go to school because there's no sanitary child protection there.
Right.
There's still the woman who's scared to go to police stations because nobody in the police will listen to her or will put the blame on her for anything that has happened. There are still difficult divorce laws. There are still women who are thrown out by their husbands who marry again without getting a divorce and with nowhere to go. So certainly we live in, and yet again there's that woman who goes out, is confident, is aggressive, is, everything good, and gets a job on her own, will live on her own, will choose her life. So India lives in several centuries, as I said.
But this new policy which I'm talking about, how is it really different from the one which existed in 2001? What are the differentiating factors?
Well, it's fine-tuned to today's women. For instance, there's a lot of features that involve single women.
Okay.
Single working women, single mothers, harassment committees in all offices, maternity leave as a right, not as a benefit. So today's policy is also geared at women who are single mothers, women who want to adopt. What benefits, what rights do they have? For instance, maternity leave as a right, Then it's geared towards protecting them against harassment, so sensitization of all officers, compulsory harassment committees. There are many, many features in this policy which have never occurred to anybody before.
These are the identifying factors, like what you have identified as a problem in the present context. But a lot of work also depends on other ministries. You will need a lot of interministerial collaboration, you know, for monitoring, for auditing, everything. Is that going to be a big challenge for a ministry like yours?
No, it isn't. For instance, to give you an example, the maternity benefit idea came from us, and we worked initially on it. But it had to be passed by the Labour Ministry, and they were happy to do it. So it went through, you know, seamlessly. Like that, we deal with the Health Ministry on many other things. And again, they do it. HRD. So I don't think there are any silos anymore. It's easy to get other departments to also work, provided you have something sound to say.
When you talk specifically about the maternity benefit law, there have been a lot of reports where people have said that, you know, it caters only to the women in the formal sector, and we've left out a whole lot of women who are, say, farm laborers and the maids.
No, this doesn't really make any sense. This, you know, people say things just for the sake of saying them. No matter what you do, somebody's going to say, no, you should have done it this way. The point is that we are talking about women in formal employment. Yeah? How do you cater to somebody who's not employed? What do you give her a benefit from? Okay. No woman who's isn't employed, how do I give her a chutti from when she's already not employed? After all, farm labor is usually family labor, or they work on a daily basis. Right. So if she takes 6 months leave to have a baby, or she takes 1 year leave to have a baby, nobody cares.
You do have a point, ma'am, when you say that what you do with the women who are not registered, who are not...
not registered. The question is they work daily.
Right.
They can come Monday, and if they don't feel like, it's up to them. They don't want to come, they don't come on Tuesday.
But is there provision also to bring these kind of women into the formal sector so that they can also avail the benefits?
How do you bring them into the formal sector? How do you bring them in? I mean, the point is they are employed seasonally.
Okay.
So how do you bring them in? I mean, again, you know, we're talking in a way that you don't even see what's on the ground. How do you bring in somebody from a non-formal sector? After all, let's just suppose a woman is employed to get bricks at a construction house. How do I make her job permanent? That house is going to finish, she's going to leave, the contractor is going to change, he may never get another contract. So who do I make her employed by?
But the chunk of the women working in the informal sector is far by greater than the women who are employed in the formal sector.
What can I do about that?
But is there a way out? Is there a provision on which the government might work? If not, the work has begun, maybe they will work in future, but you cannot let this chunk of women being overlooked at the moment. So is there a provision by which you would actually start thinking in terms of legal benefits?
No, there are millions of other benefits that we could give them.
Okay.
We could give them health benefits. In fact, we have been trying very hard so far that women should have compulsorily a card.
Okay.
In which 7 tests should be carried out per year. And unless those tests are carried out, the man, her husband, her father, whatever, will not get his benefits. And these should be for cancer, especially uterus and breast. It should be for fungal infections. It should be for tuberculosis, etc. And only when all the boxes are ticked, will the rest of the family get their benefits. Because otherwise, the woman is always overlooked, always. You know, one of the statistics that came to me, which was really frightening, was a group that works with cancer children in Bombay. And they were saying that they did a survey of 16,000 children. And they found that 70% of the children that had cancer and were in schools were boys. Now, it's not because boys get more cancer than girls. It's because the girl is at that age expendable. Right. So they'll bring her in only at the end when it's too late. So the same way with women. They're usually brought to hospitals when it's too late. So yes, there are many benefits that you can give the unemployed sector or the seasonally employed sector, the non-formal sector. But those we have catered to in the policy in a different way. In the formal sector, it's important to give them maternity benefits, harassment committees, and whatever else they might need.
That also brings me to the question you just mentioned about the health of the women. We have seen, especially in rural India, you will still see that boys will be unwilling to do the house job. It's only the girls who are doing the household chores. How do you really, what kind of a challenge is it really to change the male mindset of the country? I mean, we are still governed by that patriarchal attitude, whether it is the family, whether it is the political parties, that patriarchal attitude. When will we be in a position to say that, okay, that patriarchal attitude is now fading?
When we take a particular aspect of society and then just go completely and attack it, then it is possible to change. For instance, when we took over, one of the first programs of the government was the Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. Yeah. Now, in that, we took those districts which had a really terrible skewed population, 830 to 1,000 and falling. And we realized that it was in Western India mainly. But however, we didn't get a lot of money for it, but we put all our energies into out of the box kind of solutions. And even then I expected that it would take a long time. But what has been incredible is that having thrown everything, including the kitchen sink, at the problem, in 100 districts, which were the worst, we then have, within 1 year, within 11 months, we went from 830 to 907, which is an incredible feat. So society is willing to change. It's just that you have to make it in such a way that it appeals to the people who make the decisions. For instance, one of the ways that we could succeed in letting the girl live was really to appeal to the dadis, the women, the grandmothers who actually make the decisions in the family about whether the daughter-in-law will have a girl or a boy. So the dadis then became part of our campaign. We started rewarding people who would name their shops Ahuja and Daughters instead of Ahuja and Sons. You know? We then tied it up with other measures like, PCP and DT people were tightened up. But on the whole, it was a way to change society, which changed. And the most patriarchal of societies, that is Haryana, did the best, actually. The worst was done in Kashmir. But I can understand that, because in areas that see themselves as being in conflict all the time, they don't want women to come in.
We've often heard Prime Minister Narendra Modi talking about not women's development per se, but a woman-led development. And that really goes to show that the government is thinking about positioning women in key positions, in important decision-making bodies. But why are we not hearing too much on the women's reservation bill? I mean, we're hearing about women's development, but not too much on the women's reservation bill.
You know, I wish I could answer that question. But the women's reservation bill is a decision that will have to be taken by all parties, because it will completely change the nature of politics and it will completely change the nature of representation in Parliament. So it's a decision that no party, while paying lip service to it in front, is willing to proceed with. Secondly, the bill itself, if I may be allowed to say, is very clumsy.
Okay.
And
why do you say so?
See, what it is that there's a reservation for 5 years, and then it reverts to being a general seat.
Right.
Now let's just suppose I'm a man and I've won, say, 4 times, and now I have to give up my seat for 1 term to a woman. I'm not going to let any normal, ordinary, amazing, from the ground woman come in and take my seat. So what I will do is I'll put my wife, I'll put my daughter. Now, do we want a parliament full of just wives, daughters, girlfriends, grandmothers? We don't. You actually want.
So you want to say that it might enhance the pattern of dynasty politics, and people might
I don't
just
want dynasty politics, but it certainly will not bring in the kind of women you want to bring in. So do you want remote control? Do you want sarpanch patis?
right,
What we are doing in this ministry,
which is still very much a pattern. The
yes,
sarpanch patis.
but what we are doing for the first time, in fact, it's one of the 10 things on my board as things that will change India, which is there are 6 lakh sarpanches in this country, of which 2 lakh are women, and they've all been elected this year. So we have 5 years to work with.
Right.
We have designed a training program for every sarpanchini, in which we teach them not just how to make nalis and to recognize the bajri to a cement ratio, but also how to access money from the government, how to keep registers, how to call panchayats, how to look after the women in the village, how to make sure the school teacher comes, how to see that the electricity is working, how to make calls if the transformer explodes, how to complain about a lack of, say, toilets, and how to use that money wisely. So we did one pilot program in Jalawad, where we got 40 sarpanchinis to come, and they were all accompanied by their husbands. So we put the husbands into another room, we trained them for 3 days, and at the end of 3 days, the sea change in them was so enormous that they actually wanted an app so that they could communicate with each other and tell each other what they were doing in their villages. Now we have extended that to all over India, and we're going to do state by state starting from January. And hopefully, because why it bothered me was because for years and years, in my own constituency, of which I've won 7 times, we have a lot of women who I'm terribly proud of, who become sarpanchinis and then never go up from there.
You are making a very valid and a very significant point, ma'am, but just would like to understand from you that when political parties, irrespective of which governments they have been in, whether it's a BJP government or it's a Congress government, the political class hasn't been very sensitive towards these issues. They treat, by and large, women have been treated as vote banks. But when you're talking about an economic empowerment, when you're talking about the political empowerment, can the political class really prohibit themselves from treating women as a vote bank?
No,
I'm
saying that
it's a need of the hour.
Nobody can prohibit anybody. Okay. And nobody can treat anybody as a vote bank unless you want to be treated as a vote bank. So if you push caste forward, your own caste forward, then you'll be treated as a caste vote bank. The same way, women haven't actually fought enough for their rights. So, which is why we thought that if we had 2 lakh sarpanchinis, understanding what their jobs were, rather than letting their husbands push them around, steal the money, and destroy the village. We thought that if they could be our base, we could get a strong political uprising. Now they will then become mayors and zilla parishads, and then they will go on to become MLAs and MPs. So actually this ministry is laying the basis for it for the first time. When women get up and they get the training and they know they can command a whole village, then they can command the nation.
We have seen, that when the political class doesn't do much, we have heard stories on Gulab Gang, for example, the way they have been functioning. Apart from the political support, do we also need groups like Gulab Gang to energize and invigorate the women? And because at the rural level, the consciousness is not too much.
We certainly need a gathering of women. Okay. Now there was one half-hearted attempt in making self-help groups. Okay. But because it was so badly conceived that it simply didn't work. You put 11 women together and make a bank account dependent on them being 11. And then you teach them nothing. You give them a cow, you give them a goat, and then you expect them to get together and become important. It doesn't work like that. So, but certainly a ganging up of women is very important for the nation's health.
I was asking you, ma'am, that you are an activist by heart and a woman too who's in a portfolio like Women in Child Development Ministry. How difficult is it really for a woman in today's world to participate actively in politics and to make a mark on her own?
It's difficult, but not necessarily because I'm a woman. Yes, it is more difficult for women to tell the truth, but you can't make your mark on anything in life, whether you're a man or a woman, unless you're dedicated to one particular kind of passion. So if you're a generalist, then you come and go like 1,000 other generalists in politics. You come, you win a few seats, maybe you sit in general, maybe achieve a hierarchy, become a minister or not, but you're forgotten the minute you're out. So if you want to make a lasting mark, then you actually need to know your subject. You need to study very hard. You need to be passionate about a few things and use those as your markers to get ahead in life. And then everything else falls into place. Even then it's more difficult for a woman. But women generally are not generalists. Many of them who make their mark specialize either in women's affairs, environment, in anything. But those women are worth a million. They are the ones who take India forward.
Many times we have seen that despite all the talent a woman has, there has always been a sense of discrimination with the women when you compare it with the males and the females. We have always seen that despite all the talent a woman has, there is, even if she is giving a tough competition to men, there is a certain sense of jealousy which always creeps in. I wouldn't say it doesn't come with the women, but it does happen that somewhere she's left behind.
Humans
in
like
politics,
that.
how is it?
No, it's humans are like that. No, humans are like that. It's a standard crab thing that if a crab is crawling out, there are 3 crabs going to pull it down. So it's not applicable. But yes, as I said, a woman has to just try that much harder. But then the women who get ahead do try that much harder. And they are that much smarter.
But we've also known you as an animal rights activist. Do you also feel suffocated at times in politics? Probably that you're not able to do what you think?
No, I don't feel suffocated in politics because I do exactly what I want to do.
And you're allowed to do that?
No, nobody has to allow me. I work very, very hard. I'm very, very committed. And it's not just animal activism. I work very hard as an activist in almost everything. When the heart opens, it opens for everything. There must be a reason why I am the second or third longest serving member of parliament.
Right.
And of which 4 times is as an independent. It's because everybody's problem is mine.
Okay.
I feel very passionately about India, I just feel everything in India belongs to me.
So your missionary zeal becomes a point of jealousy with the others?
No, I don't know. I don't see anything as jealous or not jealous because I'm not in competition with anybody. I do the things I find important. So I don't see anybody else in that field. But jealousy is a part of the human psyche. So whether somebody's jealous or not jealous, I wish everyone well because they too belong to me.
But if I can ask you your New Year resolution, and then would ask the biggest problem in your life.
No, the biggest problem in my life is time and using it well and finding less and less of it as my life goes on. And what is my New Year resolution? It would have to be the standard women's New Year resolution, which is to lose weight.
Okay.
But just to be kinder, perhaps to be kinder, to work more, to be able to achieve more, to mend what can be mended. Those are my New Year resolutions, except my New Year comes every morning when I wake up.
What do you have to tell the male population of the country? A minister who drives the half population of the country, what do you have to tell the males of India?
Maybe they should be less insecure and make more place for the better half.
Okay, that's a good one. Pleasure talking to you, Mrs. Gandhi. So that's it on this episode of To The Point. See you next time with another personality. Goodbye and thanks for watching.